So, since I spoke about Winnie Madikizela Mandela and the dark feminine, I've been feeling inclined to speak about Nelson Mandela and the male ego death. So, an ego death is the complete loss of subjective self identity. And I feel like these things are connected. So, both Nelson and Winnie Madikizela Mandela were transformed by the apartheid regime in two very different ways. Winnie Madikizela Mandela was subjected to extreme torture, which led her to lean into her dark femininity. On the other side, Nelson Mandela was subjected to peace.
There was a lot of cruelty which was practiced on myself and my colleagues. There were assault. I was never assaulted. You must also understand that the warders who worked with us are themselves workers, are themselves human beings with problems who are also exploited, the victims of the system. And one of our objectives was to ensure that we improve the relations between ourselves and these warders, help them in their own problems. And in that way, you forget about anything that is negative, like hate. You are dealing with human beings and you wanted to live in peace with these people.
He was put in Robben Island where he didn't experience torture. He didn't experience the pain and suffering that the people outside were experiencing. And that I believe ultimately led him to his male ego death.
The first thing is to be honest with yourself. You can never have an impact on society if you have not changed yourself. And one of the most important weapons in changing yourself is to recognize that peace, people everywhere in the world want peace.
So, what triggers an ego death? An ego death is triggered by a lot of things, including isolation, severe trauma, and near death experiences. Prior to his arrest in Robben Island, Nelson Mandela was part of Umkhonto weSizwe, which was an armed wing of the ANC using violence to fight against the apartheid system. And he got arrested. And when he was arrested, he actually believed that they were going to hang him and that he was going to die.
If it needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die.
I had to say that, not from a spirit of bravado, but because I genuinely felt that they were going to hang us. And it is the desire of every freedom fighter to disappear under a cloud of glory.
After the treason trial, obviously they didn't kill him. Instead, they sent him to Robben Island, where he would be isolated for more than 20 years. Faced with all those odds, Nelson Mandela could have chosen to remain the same, but he couldn't because the environment around him had changed. And there was a high probability that Nelson Mandela thought he was going to die in prison. And if you read his book, Long Walk to Freedom, he says that while he was in prison, he deeply regretted joining politics because that meant that he had a life where he was never part of his family. He had a life where he couldn't raise his children. So already we can see a man who was battling with the human being or the version of himself that got him in prison in the first place. And because of that, he decided that he was going to change.
I have spent a long time in prison and wasted away the most productive years of my life. Those conditions would make any man very bitter and his heart to be full of hate.
Did you feel hated? Did you feel that you were the object of hatred, or were you just a prisoner in an impersonal system carrying out the will of the state.
I hated oppression. And when I think about the past, the type of things they did, I feel angry. You have a limited time to stay on earth. You must try and use that period for the purpose of transforming your country into what you desire it to be. And therefore, you had to reject all negative features in your own soul, in your blood system, and focus your attention on the positive things. I wanted to be known as Mandela, a man with weaknesses, especially because I knew it was not the contribution of an individual which would bring about liberation and the peaceful transformation of the country. And my first task when I came out was to destroy that myth that I was something other than an ordinary human being.
And because of Nelson Mandela's ego death and subsequent transformation, we get reintroduced to this Nelson Mandela after 1990. And people always want to contrast this to Winnie Madikizela Mandela. And Winnie had every right to be who she was because she was living under different circumstances to Nelson Mandela. And she could not be Nelson Mandela because Nelson Mandela was sitting in Robben Island in deep meditation over an elongated period of time in safety, literally the opposite of Winnie. So they could have never, ever, ever been the same person. They will always be polar opposites just by the mere fact of how they were treated during apartheid. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.